It's not even from other moms that I hear this. I hear this from, single moms working two jobs. I hear this from the homosexual man at the hairdresser shop.
What? Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am Jen. This is Fundy Fridays, and here on my channel I talk about different aspects of Christian fundamentalism, American conservative politics, pop culture, and gay stuff. And today I wanted to do a quick easy video because I am working on some longer form stuff, some more intense stuff, and I still wanted to get a video out for you guys. So I am going to be going over some Vision Forum DVDs today. These were briefly mentioned and previewed in last week's video, but I figured these are about 45 minutes each, so I could definitely get a whole video out of it. And it's Michelle Duggar. And yes, we are going to be thanking Michelle today. As we do every week and every morning, we thank her for giving me a career. And I just thought that would be a fun little easy video for you all, and I know you'd appreciate it. So I'm going to be on the webcam today, not the fancy camera, but that's okay. And so let's begin. If you weren't aware, Vision Forum is a now defunct religious organization. They also had a business arm. They made curriculums. They made beautiful girlhood dolls. There's one right there. They were all about the biblical patriarchy and gender roles and the enforcing of those things. They had all kinds of conferences and books and tapes and celebrity elbow rubbing, right? They really wanted to be more famous than they were, and so people at Vision Forum would often try to attach themselves to other stars, and I'm using that term loosely, like Kirk Cameron and the Duggars. And they really represented everything that Vision Forum was trying to peddle. And so they were an easy target. Plus, they came with their own camera crews, so it was kind of a win-win for religious organizations to work with the Duggars. They got to evangelize, they got to schmooze, they got to network, and they got to make money because everybody is curious about Michelle Duggar and how she raises all of her kids. The secret is she doesn't raise them. The Duggars have done a couple things with Vision Forum, and some of them are on here, although they split them up weird, probably because they wanted 2 DVDs. But this one is Hospitality with Michelle Duggar, and it's Michelle giving a speech at the Reformation of Food and Family Conference, I think. And that's Michelle talking to a group of women. And then there's the Tea with Michelle Duggar, which is confusing because there was a Vision Forum tea party, Titanic dress-up thing. We talked about it in the last video. But Belle, who is Doug Phillips's wife, Doug Phillips is the creator of Vision Forum, her and Michelle have a drink, and it's in a styrofoam cup, but it's not tea. So who knows? Okay, so this is the DVD menu, and the ladies' tea interviews is from a Vision Forum event where the women dressed up like they were going to be on the Titanic, and they drank tea, and they talked about how they needed to be super feminine and live a godly life so that men would feel like they needed to lay down their lives and protect the women and children first. I know, if that sounds crazy, that's because it is. And we talked about that in last week's video, but I'll play a clip for you of this nonsense.
And then we had a beautiful tea luncheon. I think it exceeded all of my expectations.
I am thoroughly enjoying myself with the ladies' tea. We were anticipating this with the highest expectation. As a woman, the principle of women and children first means a lot because it reflects Christ's love to his bride. And the whole story of the Titanic is a very sobering picture of that.
It's teaching me a lot about what it means to be a woman and delighting in being what I am.
And as I try to encourage the women today, we want to live lives as women day to day in a way that would inspire men to lay down their lives for us and to sacrifice for us and to live in a manner to make that sacrifice worthy. I want to start with a poem. And I have about 6 to choose from, so you're going to have to listen to them all morning so I can get through all of them.
We're starting off strong with some poems that she doesn't even want to read. You know, you're in charge of this event, Belle. You don't have to read anything you don't want to. We're starting off strong with some poems that she doesn't even want to read. You know, you're in charge of this event, Belle. You don't have to read anything you don't want to.
Let's start with this one. J.R. Clements, God Give Us Homes. We're going to sing this in a little while too, so I'll give you the precursor to it. Homes with a father in priest-like employ.
This was a book of poems compiled and edited by Belle Phillips, and I find that very interesting because Doug compiled and edited a book of poems called Poems for Patriarchs. So this is the girl version, I guess. And the back says, Vision Forum is dedicated to the restoration of the Christian family. An unabashed advocate for the historic biblical ideal of motherhood and fatherhood, Vision Forum is pleased to publish a variety of family catalogs, including the All-American Boys Adventure Catalog, the Beautiful Girlhood Collection, which we know all about, and our annual book catalog. The men and women of Vision Forum rejoice in the revival of biblical education promoted through the homeschool movement and dare to believe that it is still noble and virtuous to raise our sons with a passion to become Christian patriarchs. Men of self-sacrifice and vision who still believe it is right to hold the door for a woman. God. Belle is a helpmeet and wife to Doug Phillips and the mother of 6 children. The Phillips family runs Vision Forum, a work dedicated to rebuilding the Christian family and the culture of the Christian home. Of his wife, Belle, Doug says, she is the sweetest, kindest, strongest, most faithful taste of heaven this Texas country has ever produced. Okay. Yeah, whatever, dude. Yeah, we got an Above Rubies quote in the front here, but... Anyway, let's hear about these terrible poems, Belle.
We're going to sing this in a little while too, so I'll give you the precursor to it.
Please don't.
God give us homes where the Bible is honored and taught, homes with the Spirit of Christ in their thought, homes that a likeness to heaven have caught. God give us homes. God give us homes with a Father in priest-like employ, homes that are bright with a far-reaching joy, homes where no world stain shall come to annoy. God give us homes. God give us homes where the mother is queen-like in love, ruled in the fear of the Savior above, homes that to youth most inspiring shall prove. God give us homes. God give us homes with the children to brighten the hours, budding and blooming like beautiful flowers, places of sunshine, sweet sanctified bowers. God give us homes.
What is this Paul Olaguez level of English composition? It's a basic-ass poem.
This is by W.T. Wrighton, Home. The dearest spot of earth to me is home, sweet home. The fairy land I long to see is home, sweet home. There how charmed the sense of hearing, there where love is so endearing, all the world is not so cheering as home, sweet home. I've taught my heart the way to prize my...
You know, the women have already eaten their little finger sandwiches and drank their tea, so like there's no distractions. They just have to listen to this.
I've learned to look with lover's eyes on home, sweet home. There where vows are truly plighted, there where hearts are so united, all the world besides I've slighted for home, sweet home.
Yeah, they have to convince you home is awesome because that's basically all you're going to be allowed to see from now on. It's like The Sims 1 without the expansion packs. Like, your entire life is just the 4 walls of your home. So, you know, why not rhyme?
Well, we started with poems about homes because the theme of our tea is hospitality. And in large part, we as women and as...
Why didn't they call it hospitality?
Keepers at home and keepers of the home are the ones that create the link between food and hospitality. And we not only establish that link the way we run our homes, but we nurture it and we protect it. We create culture. Have you ever thought about that? That we create culture in our home.
The role that you play in your home as keeper at home and keeper of your home actually creates not just family culture, but it drips over into all aspects of life. You create a culture in your family, you create a culture in your church, and you create a culture in your community. Doug often quotes...
They're kind of talking like a little bit complementarianism, except for they probably don't agree with complementarianism, which is the opposite of egalitarianism, which means everyone's equal. Complementarianism says that men and women are different, but they are good at different things and they complement each other. So men are good at violence, basically, and women are good at keeping the home, raising children, and they will try to present that as like a progressive thing because they're like, no, we're saying that women are better at certain things, like cooking, cleaning, and child rearing. Men could never do that, so it's awesome. You should be happy that you're a woman because this is the role you get. And aren't you glad that you get to decorate your house and have children? We're all humans. We all have the same meat sacks with just a little bit of difference. And it's really unfair to say that men and women can only do certain things. And even if you try to backhanded compliment women by saying that they're better at cooking and cleaning, like that's still super condescending and stereotypical and patriarchal. So I appreciate that she's trying to, rally the troops here and get the women excited about working at home, but it's kind of sad and bleak.
Henry Van Til, who said culture is religion externalized. So when we talk about hospitality, we're talking about a lot more than the food we serve and the comforts that we provide for people and the entertainment that we give them in our homes, although those are physical manifestations. But we're actually talking about a lifestyle of connection. So here's one.
No.
I did this ahead of time. I was going to try to finish this up here. So let's see if I can finish this up.
What
we are
is going
all
on?
Interconnected if we really truly believe in the culture of hospitality.
She's about to give us an object lesson.
Arts and crafts and talking at the same time doesn't work.
Well, you should be able to do that.
Investing in, serving, feeding, providing for others. And this is our purpose, right? Part of our creed says that we are here to glorify God and enjoy Him together.
That's not what I was created to do. I was created to party.
We were created to glorify God. We have a particular role of keepers at home. And the primary manifestation is through hospitality.
I am losing my mind at the fucking paper chains here, which are cute. Love a paper chain. I almost made one for James's birthday recently. I love doing them at Christmas. It's a classic craft. You can do it with scrap paper, but just the fact that she's like, oh yeah, I'm really gonna eat with this. Like, people really want to see these paper chains. And I get it. She's like, oh, we're all links in a chain representing our sisterhood or something. I don't know. Let me hear her out. Maybe she's got something.
And when we do that, our religion is externalized and culture is changed. And I don't know if this is going to stay. So Tony, you can help me. So this is what I'm trying to show you.
Tony?
This can be you and your family, which is nice. It's cute. It's got all sorts of little colors and it's nice as itself, on its own. But look at this. Isn't this wonderful? Isn't this beautiful and magnificent? And doesn't it say a whole lot more? And these are all of our families connected by the interactions that we have through hospitality that starts in your home. The colors, the connectivity, all of it. It just says so much more and it leaves a much bigger influence.
These poor little girls. They're like, can we make a paper chain? Like, this is boring as shit. What are you talking about?
Okay, Michelle. Many of you have gotten to visit with Michelle casually, but I would like to formally introduce you to my friend, Michelle Duggar.
I like the
And
pink.
This is really great because the last time we were together, we got to talk about babies.
Yes.
And this time we get to talk about food and hospitality.
Favorite subject.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't get much
apparently.
better. Now let's see. I hate for us to be hidden behind this. Here, you take that
I know,
corner.
I'm so short, I probably am gonna have to stand on my tippy toes.
She's so tiny, she's going to blow away with just the littlest bit of wind.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to ask some questions to Michelle about hospitality in their home so that we get a little inside peek of what it looks like translated and works out practically for the Duggars. Sound okay?
That sounds great. That
Okay.
sounds like a plan.
You could literally hear silverware clinking and babies crying.
I thought about taking questions from you all, but I thought we would be here all afternoon, so I just came up with my own.
Okay, was that bitchy? That seemed a little shady to me.
First of all, we're just going to get set on the right foundation here. Can you describe your family's vision for hospitality in your home?
Definitely. As Jim Bob and I were praying, he said,
They can't get a lavalier mic on Michelle. Well, I guess she has one. What the hell is this? Is it not hooked up? Is it not transmitting information to a receiver?
we really need to share with the ladies about what the vision of the home is. Number one, our home is a ministry center, and our family is ministering together to serve God. And so we're a team. We work together as a team. And when we focus on Christ being the center of our life, individually, each one, and then together corporately in our family, encouraging each other.
Did she say corporately in our family? Was that a Freudian slip?
To love God with our whole heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then number two, to love others. Then out of that's going to flow a ministry center. Our home has to be a health center where we learn to be good stewards with the things that God's given us to feed our family, grow our family. It needs to be a craft center and a place where we can make and learn and grow and do things that will bless our family and bless others. And then it is a worship center where we have godly, wholesome music and praise and is always on our tongue. And as mamas, we are speaking.
She's all over the place with this. I don't think she prepared.
Is the definition of hospitality is cheerfully sharing food, shelter, and spiritual refreshment with those whom God brings into our lives.
Spiritual refreshment. I want some spiritual refreshments.
And I was telling a story really quick, Belle, I gotta share this. On our way here, we felt like we were running behind schedule because we did not plan for Texas traffic. We forgot that everything is bigger in Texas because we're from the little state of Arkansas. And so traffic is amazingly huge here. And every time we would get to a major city, we would literally slow down to a stop and then a crawl. And that meant there was 30 minutes and 20 minutes and another 15 minutes eaten up of our travel time. And we were like, we should have given ourselves 4 extra hours of travel time just to get here, not to count the restroom breaks because we didn't have our bus, we didn't have that bathroom on board. So we were literally, and then we found another amazing big thing about Texas. We have been praying for rain back in Arkansas, but you guys got it first in Texas.
She's trying to be relatable and fun, but Michelle, you're all over the place. Did you hit the Benjamin? Did she hit the Benjamin Seawald in the parking lot before this?
And when we stopped to fill up with fuel, there was this huge, amazing rainstorm that came while we were in the building. And our car was way out there by the gas pumps. And needless to say, we didn't have an umbrella and they didn't sell them in the convenience store. And so we were standing between us and this huge rainstorm thinking that if we wait this thing out, we're really gonna be late. And the girls inside felt for us and they gave us a big black trash bags to put over our heads so we could run to the car. And so
I need this footage. I need the security camera footage from this gas station of the Duggar women covering themselves in trash bags to run back to their bus.
So needless to say, we were soaked when we got in the car, and we thought, okay, Lord, we're gonna have to start all over because we were drenched. And I thought, everything is so big, but you know what's so neat about this? God had a divine appointment for us on the way here.
What?
As we were driving down the interstate, after all of that had occurred, we managed to pick up our speed to average where it was supposed to be at 55 miles per hour. My daughter that was sitting in the back seat, who's Jana, is very attentive. She looked
Of course,
over
she has to be.
next to us and she said, Mama, isn't that Mr. Randy Putz? And we all looked and we were like, oh, it is. He is the godly gentleman who is a widower that we have been serving and helping with in the widows ministry for.
This is a random man whose wife died. I thought it was going to be a politician.
While now, and we totally forgot that he lives in this area. And so anyway, there
Michelle's
he was,
face looks crazy
55
right
miles
now.
per hour, right now. Now you tell me, God could have had us be anywhere at any time in the midst of crazy busy traffic, and yet he put us right there beside Mr. Putz.
That's God's plan. That 10-car pileup that's backing up the highway, that was God's plan so you could make eye contact with this widower that you knew in traffic. What?
And so me and my boldness, the way I am, my girls probably just went, oh, Mother, please don't do this. But I was like, honk, 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 honk. And Mr. Putz was like, I'm doing everything right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me. And then finally I went, honk, honk, and he finally looks over and we're all going, or at least I'm going. And then he's like, and so anyway, we connected, and I know God meant for that to happen. And so whatever, I just know, ladies, it is about a relationship with Christ.
What?
It's not about a schedule. It's not about everything being perfect in our home or in our family, but it's about that relationship and the relationships that God brings into our lives to be able to be available and flexible and be willing to just be used by Him, no matter how imperfect we are.
What a perfect story. You know, we always see God's sovereignty in hindsight behind us as we go along. But, I mean, that's just a beautiful illustration of this right here, the connection that we have from people to people.
She said, "Nuh-uh, your story isn't as good as my shitty paper chains. I worked for 10 minutes on this. You're not going to usurp me."
And then God is the one that connects those paths at just the right time.
Okay, it's not these women's fault that this is happening, but for some reason the video files get like corrupted, and look at like how demonic Belle is looking. You know, if I was a Pentecostal, I'd probably think this was a sign of something.
Which reminds me that Doug and I made an agreement a long time ago.
I don't care what Doug says.
I wanted to have our meal time, especially dinner time, flexible at home so that if something happened at the office and he needed to bring somebody back with him, he could give me, 5 to 10 minutes notice, and
He was always late coming home because he had to spend time with Peter Bradrick and all those young men.
would have something waiting in the wings. And it's fun to see how that has blossomed, because often the children will even set an extra place or two at the dinner table because they never know who's going to show up with Dad for dinner. But it's created an atmosphere of waiting on the Lord to see if there's something unexpected that the Lord is going to bring that we need to be prepared for. So we've had some interesting situations, and not quite waving out the window at your neighbor, but that's great.
Bitchy Queen, what are you doing?
We're going to get together with him. That's what's so neat. Yes, because he has some friends that he wants us to encourage. So God just does amazing things. There's going to be that fellowship and encouragement there.
That is great. Okay, well, in your home,
Sure.
What does your version of hospitality look like in your home? How often is it seasonal? I know you're traveling a lot. You've got the show. So how often? How many
The
people?
show.
What kinds of things do you serve? What do you do
She says, "Michelle, will you invite me to be on your show, please?"
with other families that come over? And do you have any special family traditions? that you all like to do when you have folks over?
Yes. Okay. Well, we love to fellowship with others, and often when we are home, our schedule is quite busy compared to what it used to be when I had all my little ones and no older ones. But
When before the older ones were, kindergarten age and they could take on another buddy, right?
once a week is a good goal to invite others over. Sometimes
Damn.
every 2 weeks, depending on the busyness.
And I must be like diabolical levels of introverted, because hearing them say you need to have, it's a good idea to aim for visitors once a week. Do not come to my home.
When we do, we love to invite one, either individual or family, sometimes two, so that there can be more fellowship connection with ones that might not know each other. New families, we love, I tell you, heroes to us are missionaries. And when we get to have missionaries in our home, that's like the ultimate, because we just like ask them tons of questions.
Okay, the only religious groups that I know of, especially in my area, and I live, a state above Michelle, the only missionaries that go door to door are Mormon or Jehovah's Witness. I don't see Baptist or Catholic or even some of the more obscure groups. I don't see missionaries. And so, what do you mean? Unless it's like the church is like, oh, I got this missionary from Nepal and he's, got the hots for your daughter Jill. Do you think you could host him for the night? Maybe that, but even then, what are you talking about? Because the thought of Michelle and Jim Bob and the entire crew harboring some missionaries is so funny. I'm imagining them trying to interrogate them. I figured it out. She's talking about hosting a traveling missionary family, like full-time missionaries that go to different countries. She's talking about hosting them in their house so they have somewhere to stay for a few weeks. I'm pretty sure that's what she's talking about.
I throw this in also, is not about what we have, but it's about who we are. It's not that we have our house perfect and clean and everything's repaired and fixed. I thought we had company this past week. We had a family with 8 staying in the boys' room, and then a family of 5 staying in a trailer that was parked out beside our house that had air conditioning. Praise the Lord for air conditioning. And then another family that actually stayed at Josh and Anna's because we didn't have much more space at that time.
You're done. You're done. We know, because of the show, I've seen them do this. When they have big families over, they'll kick the boys out of their room because they only have like technically 4 bedrooms in that house. They will kick the boys out of the boys' room and send them on to the RV, and then guests can stay in there. But sending people to Josh and Anna's house, first of all, we know why Josh should never have guests over or family members or friends or be allowed to see the sun. But Josh and Anna's house was freaking 2 bedroom, 1 bath, ranch style. And you're going to have people staying there, strangers, even friends. That's a burden. Anna has several young toddlers and a Josh to take care of, who's, a man child. So that's even harder to take care of. And that's if your big ass house can't handle the amount of people you have to the point where there's runoff, and you're sending them to stay at your pervert son's house, maybe that's too many people. I don't know. Am I being unreasonable here?
If we had our bus, we would have been able to move some other children out into the bus, like the girls often give up their room for guests and move.
Oh, yeah,
But it was in repair right now.
They have so little, yet you managed to take even more from them. Great.
During that time of fellowship, I thought, you know what? There was a broken faucet in one of the bathtubs. And my goal was to get that fixed, but my guys had been so busy that they just weren't able to get around to it. So we had to have instructions on how to put the wrench on the thing to turn it on and to get the right tip because the hot water wasn't working properly. And you know what? I thought, they didn't mind. That doesn't bother people. It's the fellowship and the sweetness of the time that you get to spend together.
Okay, I will give Michelle credit here. Yes, that is very relatable. We've all been through faulty appliances and broken shit in our house, and it's just hard to get to. And yes, most people do not care. If somebody cares and they're bitching and judging you for that, then they're a bad friend. And most people, they don't sweat the small stuff. They are there because they like you and they care about you and they don't care that your faucet's broke. It's relatable. My question is, once again, there are over 11 men. I guess at this time some of them would have been minor boys, but like you can't get a single one of them to fix that. Shit, I'm sure Jana could have fixed it. She is a lot more productive and competent than I'd say any man at the Duggar compound. So I just don't see I just don't see why that didn't get done. It's just an observation. I mean,
And so when we serve, we always serve buffet style because we've learned with a lot of little ones, they'll drop the whatever when you're trying to pass it around the table. And so when we go through a serving line, it just makes it that much more easier and more relaxed. And then some of our favorite meals are on our website and in our book.
probably only advice that works for this group. You know, like she's talking to quiverful moms and large church groups. They know a thing or two about buffet style. It's just interesting to me because that advice might not apply to like any random individual. So it's just interesting that she's like, well, here's how we do it in my large family. This may or may not work for you, but it's probably going to work for you because you all have 10 plus kids. I don't know. It's just something interesting to see the practicality and the slice of life when it comes to people who live like this. Like that's why people were interested in watching 19 Kids and Counting in the first place. They liked making fun of it, but also like it's just plain interesting to see how large groups are managed and when it's a family and when it's a religious family. Well, Michelle Duggar's perfect for it. Plus, they're all like kooky and campy because they're so like ridiculous, you know, like the amount of work they put into their gender performance and the upkeep of these patriarchal systems. You just see how absurd it is. Like Michelle talks a certain way, looks a certain way, dresses a certain way, and does specific things because she's a part of this group. And that's why she stands out, you know. I would say that she honestly reminds me of a Roger character from American Dad. Like she's ridiculous.
Learn because we do not have it figured out as far as the healthiest. If anybody were to look at our recipes, they would go, I will change that. I will add something different to make it a little bit more healthy. We had purposed to do whole grains and a lot of fruits and veggies. So we put a lot of fruit and veggies on our serving line. We slice up a giant tray of oranges, things that are just the things that we typically eat every day, but they're fun because you're fellowshipping. That's what makes it.
And I don't disagree. You know, you should have whole grains and oranges or whatever. Sorry, if you can hear my washing machine, it's literally the room right next to my office. And I guess James forgot that I was recording. But either way, that's relatable, Michelle. It's just interesting because she kind of went past that really fast about how they make unhealthy processed food most of the time. I'm certainly not going to judge them for that, but it's just interesting because like that's what they ate before the TLC money came in, and they probably still do out of convenience and just habit. But it's wild that Jill would talk about bringing a crock pot full of chili, seatbelting that into the back seat of a van and taking her siblings to dental appointments because she was basically a single sister mom and she had to sneak food. Probably all of them have food insecurity, if not disordered eating. You can't blame them. The crazy shit the Duggars would do, living off just rice and beans every night because that's all they could afford, and they kept having more kids, thinking that the Lord was going to provide for them. TLC had to buy all the groceries that was featured in their specials early on because they didn't have the money for it, and they didn't want to show how like shocking it would actually be to see what the Duggars were really eating. It's nuts to me. I'm glad they're doing better. I don't know specifically what they're eating, and I don't care, but she kind of glossed over that. Like, yeah, that's something you're going to have to deal with, regular Quiverful people. We have TLC money. You guys don't. So you're probably going to have to eat the tater tot casserole every night of the week like we did. I like how the washing machine stopped going when I was done.
And some of those easy meals that we always keep on hand for like those last minute big groups that may come are we love, even though it's summer, we still love chili. And we will do a chili pie
What did I just say about the chili?
meal, and it takes no time to have that on the serving line. And mine is actually one of their favorites. I've asked at birthdays, what do you want for your meal? And it's chili pie. They want chili Frito pie or chili pie.
I mean, chili's good.
You know, just keeping it simple.
And beans are good for you.
Making it a special time to encourage it. And I think my little ones, something that a family that we love dearly, Pastor Stone and his family, something that they have done. When their children were small, what they would encourage them to do, maybe they could help in preparation and getting ready for friends to come, over to fellowship. Maybe they could help in preparation and getting ready for friends to come, over to fellowship. But maybe they weren't able to really give lots. But when people came to their home, they knew that they were so special because these younger ones, they would stop before the meal and take a special time to bless their guest. They would pray. Each one in their family would take a turn to pray for their guests that were there, even the smallest one. And 20 years later, Pastor Stone shares this testimony that a gentleman that they had invited into their home for a time of fellowship.
That's, to them, maybe it was cute. And I'm being weird. Like, but I'm imagining it as creepy. I'm imagining a bunch of little Christian children blessing their guests before they get to have their tater tot casserole. That's what I'm imagining. Maybe it was cute. Let's just say that's what it was.
Came to him and said, I remember when you had me in your home when I was here 20 years ago. And the thing that struck me was that everyone, even the tiniest little toddler, prayed for me. And that made me feel so special, so loved.
Okay, so it was tiny children doing blessings for adults. Okay. Whatever. It's a free country.
I'm so welcomed, and I've never forgotten that. And so just remember, all in our family can give and make others feel special and loved. And that's what it's about.
I think this is one of the most important points, is your accessibility as a family to other people in real life situations is what both connects you as friends and also encourages other families just to see how you do things or just to see that you're a real family.
One could say that's Christian hospitality. You could also argue that it's just setting your family up to have bad boundaries because people will take advantage of you. It's also nice. It's generous. But sometimes you're setting yourself up to a standard that you're not going to be able to keep up. You can't be Holly hostess every week. You know what I mean?
And to be a part of what's really going on. Sometimes when we have folks stay with us for long periods of time, if they're just staying for a day or two, maybe we'll scrap the schedule and leave off the homeschooling and go do something fun in town. But if somebody's staying with us for a long period of time, we try to still go through the daily routines And even if they're there for dinner, we're still going to have family worship, we're still going to clean up the dinner table, etc. And the more that you can incorporate people into your life, then there's a deeper relationship built, and you also feel like there's a true, genuine exchange instead of just putting on the front. I grew up, not necessarily in my family, but in the community that I grew up in, there was often a lot of the front. You have everything perfect. And I think maybe a lot of us grew up that way, where hospitality meant you have somebody come over for dinner and you've done all the preparation and everything is perfect, and you're presenting yourself, you're presenting a show. That I actually had to have a change in philosophy after Doug and I got married, and it was a change in philosophy I wanted and embraced, but I had to let go of wanting everything to be perfect and having the silver be just right. And because when you have lots of people come over, maybe you need for them to bring part of the meal, or maybe you need for them to come and help prepare or clean up afterwards, and there's a certain amount of vulnerability there because you're opening up your life and people see that you aren't perfect. But that's what real relationships are about. I mean, that's what makes this right here so colorful and pretty.
Okay, sure. I get what she's saying, that she grew up in a culture where you really had to be perfect with your house and your hospitality, or people would judge you. They would talk about you behind your back, that your house is this, that, and the other, and that your dinner party wasn't as good as theirs, and that you have to be flexible and realistic with things, and that it's okay to ask people for help. I don't disagree with any of that. I think it's very relatable. But then she's like, just like our pretty chain here, just like our pretty paper chain. And I just think she really wants this paper chain to be a thing.
Definitely, whenever you prepare to have others in your home, if you're like us with as many people as we have, we're busy about schedule and we've got our jurisdictions to keep clean, and every once in a while we have to organize, and otherwise we wouldn't be able to walk around. And so there are times when we've been in the middle of maybe a big project like cleaning out the garage or something like that. You just never know. And yet we're planning for fellowship and having others over. It might have not even been planned, but just happens. And I've realized, I've said to Jim Bob when we were beginning to build our house that we're in right now, my idea of the perfect house is a home that has more storage space than actually living quarters. If you have a place where the door will shut and you can organize, and cabinets, my idea of the perfect library and shelves is the cabinet doors on the front of them so the dust doesn't get in, so you're constantly having to dust it. And then you don't have to see it if it's not perfectly organized.
Michelle has never said anything more relatable in her entire life. I'm a Virgo, I'm type A. I will organize the shit out of anything. And I also have a small house, and so I get it, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for that advice.
So nobody's stressed, me or anyone else. And so if there's organizers in this room, realize my gift is not organization, but out of necessity, God has shown me there's got to be a little bit of that going on, or else there's not going to be that peace. And our home needs to be a center of peace.
I take it back. That was kind of backhanded. She's like, I'm not even good at organizing, but I had to get good because God said that I had to. Like, okay.
And as we're learning what that means, decluttering is a huge thing that must take place. And we have to do that on a regular basis. And
That's just so funny to me that she's like, it's a sin if you don't declutter.
I would be amiss if I didn't say, times when we were having people come over, we literally had quick clean. We call it a quick clean of the house over the intercom, or I may whistle because that's my easiest way to get everybody's attention without yelling. And I'll say, quick clean the house, hurry. Daddy has people coming down the driveway in 10 minutes. And boy, you talk about jump from school or whatever they're doing, and boy, they are hurrying to get.
Can we talk about how Jim Bob's actually the villain in that moment? Because he knows damn well they got a big ass house and a bunch of kids and a bunch of dirt and shit. Don't just invite people over without calling your wife. But I guess when your family is that big, it's no longer a family. It's just small business. And so, like, I guess he just thinks he can do whatever. I mean, he's taught he can do whatever. It's IBLP.
Get it done.
I have to jump in here. I think this is one of the greatest advantages of large families. We can clean the house faster than anybody.
Many hands
and that's
make
my
light
first
work.
response.
She's making a joke about child labor. I mean, and the joke went over great with that audience. I'd like to point out.
Now, when people say, you have how many kids? You do what? I say, we can clean the house in 15 minutes flat. And the funny thing is, about 2-3 months ago, somebody actually said that to me. They said, are these all your kids? I said, yes, they are. Isn't it great? And he said, I bet you can clean the house so fast. But you came from a large family.
Amen. And it is amazing because we might have been cleaning out a cabinet or a closet or something. And when everybody gets after whatever, we can shove all that stuff in that closet really fast or get everything into the room and shut the door, so that we can at least walk through the hallway. That's the goal. And so it's not that we're cluttery all the time. It's just there's those seasons of life that you're busy and you have to follow through with all these things. And it's not always going to be convenient. It's not always going to be the way that you might picture it, but be available and open because you'll miss out on so many blessings if you think it has to be just a certain way, because that isn't the way life is. Reality is, like as Belle said, being willing to say, hey, you know what, we were right in the middle of this and we haven't quite got it done, but when we're finished, some of mine are going to finish this project. And a lot of times their children will jump right in and be willing to help. And they get blessed. They are talking while they're working, and nobody's stressed. It's not a big deal. And so they even feel like they're part of the family, which usually they get right in and work hard. They really are. It's like there's a lot to be done in a family with a lot of children, but a lot of times that's some of the best fellowship.
Some of you all know my precious sister in the Lord, Yvonne Welch, who lives in Fredericksburg with her husband, Bob. And I will never forget something that she taught me.
My friend Yvonne, who lives at 123 Sesame Street, her social security number is 557. Not like what? Don't just tell this entire lady's business.
When we lived in Bernie and we had the church meeting in our home, every Sunday we had 250 average people in our home on Sunday morning, and it was an unusual structure of the home. The story about Yvonne, we had these 250 people coming every Sunday, and I had all little people, and it was really tricky trying to get everything ready Sunday night for all these people or Saturday night for the people on Sunday morning. And I would inevitably, the master bedroom was on the first floor and all the other bedrooms were on the second floor. So anything that was left on the first floor where we met for church, I would shove into the master bedroom and then close off the door so nobody could get in there. Well, Yvonne was coughing one Sunday, and I can see her across the room pointing to me, can I go into the master bedroom? And I'm thinking, of all people in the world, Yvonne is immaculate and orderly, and she gives classes on organization and proper training and all of these things. There is no way she's going in my room, and she's pointing to the door, and I finally walked over and I said, Yvonne, I'll let you in, but you're not going to believe what my room looks like. She said, no, Belle, it's going to be fine. So we opened the door, and I could see her eyes. It was one of the most difficult moments. I will never forget it. So she finishes coughing, and I'm standing there apologizing and dripping all over myself, embarrassed about my room. And she said something that I will never forget. She said, Belle, this is fine if it's only this way. And she said it much better than this. This sounds harsh the way I'm saying it, and she is the definition of graciousness. But she said, it's fine if it's like this way occasionally. What you just have to be careful of, it's that it doesn't stay like this, and that you bring order back. So every now and then I sit the kids down and we have an Yvonne talk.
Number one, I don't know. Is it, I don't want to assume that she's trying to be a certain way. I just thought it was funny that Michelle was giving a relatable tip, and then Bill's like, oh, I also did that. But, maybe that's just how normal conversation works, and I'm the weirdo. Two, that story went from very relatable to bitchy again, because your friend was like, don't let it happen again, basically. Like, it can't be like this all the time. Like, unsolicited advice so you could complain about your friend's house. You were the one choking or whatever. How about you work on that?
How has your perspective on home and stewardship and hospitality changed over the years?
Early on, when we were first married, we really felt like the Lord had brought us together because we could minister united more for the Lord than single. And so then when God started giving us children, we were a ministry team. And so we lived in a little 900 square foot house where our business was. We worked out of our home, a car business. So the living room, we had put up little doors to close off the rest of the house, and that was our office for our car sales business. And that's where Jim Bob would bring people in and write up contracts so they could buy a car or whatever it was. And we would welcome guests into our home, and we had 5 children, our 5 oldest in that home. So we were in our 900 square foot house, and I loved it. I could see and hear everyone.
And they could see and hear you. How... I don't want to criticize anybody's small business and making the most that they can out of what they have. It's kind of inspiring, really. But I wonder how many cars they sold when the office was a living room and there were 5 kids in a 900 square foot house. And she's almost certainly going to be pregnant and trying to wrangle all these kids. Maybe it worked for them because somebody might feel bad for them and then buy a car for that reason. Like, they can't not say yes to the deal when they're looking at the kids whose food you're going to be depriving them of if you don't buy this car. With these kids all looking at you sad. Yeah, I get it.
And keep up with them because we were all so close together with one little bathroom. And I remember having, families in and people, our Sunday school class over for fellowship, and we would be like tight, standing room only. And people didn't mind eating while they were standing with a plate in front of them.
Man, would you go to a Duggar church fellowship quiverful chili cook-off?
And the children might all sit on the linoleum floor where if they spilled anything, it wouldn't get on the cream colored carpet. I don't know why we had that colored carpet in the living room. It was not my choice of color. And I had to tell this funny story. At one point, our vacuum cleaner broke while we were in that little home. And I literally had to sweep that cream colored carpet where people would walk in from the car lot. There wasn't a covered ground, like we didn't have concrete. It was gravel and dirt. There was no grass. So literally they track in the mud when it would rain. And there was all these yucky spots and stuff. And I just remember thinking, you know what? That's okay. We can still welcome anybody in here because it's not about what we have. It's about who we are.
Okay, that adds another layer to the Michelle lore. That is so sad. That is so depressing to imagine Michelle, once again, likely pregnant, surrounded by screaming kids. Jim Bob's trying to run a car lot. They're in rural Arkansas. And they have cream carpet, and these people are tracking mud everywhere, and there's all kinds of other dirt and food, and she's like on her hands and knees scrubbing this stuff. Like, that is horrifying. I can't believe Jim Bob is a free man. He needs to be punished.
And we want them to feel special. We want them to know that they are loved. And so we did that with 5 little ones in that 900 square foot home. And then as we were in the process of building the home that we live in now, we lived in a 2,100 square foot home, which felt like a mansion to us. The 2,100 square foot home was huge when we moved in compared to the 900 square foot house. And then we ended up having 14 children while we were in that home before we were able to finish building the 7,000 square foot house that we live in now.
That's not a good thing, Michelle. Like, that's not something to brag about. We were all gawking in shock at the images that we saw when your family was first on TLC.
And yet we still had large groups over at times. We would have fellowships and party and just one-on-one families or two families at a time, realizing that whatever we could do to encourage others to turn their heart to God, that was our goal.
The children screaming really is the cherry on top of this hellscape Sunday. You know, like, she's describing being cramped and loud and overstimulated, and there's 20 plus people, a lot of kids. It's probably smelly, it's probably hot, and they're talking about God. So it's probably just unbearable. And then there's some kids that start screaming in the background. It's like chef's kiss.
That was our purpose for being here, was to encourage one another and build each other up. And it starts with the body of Christ, and then it moves on into our communities. One of the things that we did when we lived in the 2,100 square foot house was we decided we were going to have a community, open it up to our community to come for a financial freedom seminar, because so many people need to understand the principle of stewardship in this one area.
I will have to update with the guy's name, but they have a famous IBLP adjacent financial guide that they always recommend. And it's kind of like, I don't know, if Dave Ramsey was boring. When I was looking up the Jim Salmon's Financial Freedom Seminar, which is the one that Michelle is talking about, of course I knew it had ties to IBLP. IBLP lists this stuff on her website. And then I found this website called embassymedia.com, which seems to be IBLP media. And there are so many videos from the Duggars. Like, I just found basically an unlimited source of Duggar content that I could make videos about. Including, like, kind of, I would assume, rare videos of the daughters and Kelly Jo and Michelle are doing a thing together, and I don't know. I just feel like I should really thank you, Michelle, for blessing me with this opportunity, because now I don't have to come up with episode topics for a couple of weeks. I clicked on the Bates tag, and there's one called The High Price of a Sensual Girl and How to Support a Family of 19 Without a Salary. I am going to have to do a video about this. There is no way around this. This is incredible. How come every time I unpause this, her face gets all freaky and JPEG'd, you know?
We would have Friday nights, we would have families, individuals, singles, couples, people with children. We planned a time for the children to have what we call character classes, while we and the parents were doing this financial freedom seminar. So every Friday night, people would bring food, and we would all eat together.
That is the most IBLP coded party that she's ever described.
It would take about an hour. Then the children would go to their character class, while the parents, all of us, watched that 1 hour video. And for, I think it was 10 weeks, we did that. And the people that went through that time of fellowship with us, because then we would just discuss quickly afterwards any points that really stuck out to us. But the people that came for that, some were saved, committed their life to Christ. And then those that have come have said that
I told you this shit was sus. Like, yeah, it was about converting people. It was a Christian financial freedom seminar.
literally changed the course of their lives by doing that Bible study together. And it wasn't a church setting, but there were people that would come there that would never step foot in a church whose lives were changed. And so I think don't be afraid to
Me when I lie.
open up your home as a ministry center as you can. Now, this was later, ladies. I'm saying this wasn't when I had 5 little ones. This was when I had teenagers that were able to help with the character class and be the babysitters and the helpers.
There it is! The buddy system, parentification. I couldn't do it without the older girls. What? Like, obviously, you're saving money by using free child labor.
And a place for the nursing mommies to go to nurse their children and stuff. And we later did that in our community building downtown again, and had a room for the children and a room for the parents.
I need to know people who attended that. I have to know every single detail. How did that go? What went down? Everything.
So there's creative ways that you can be hospitable in your home, and then also in another bigger area where maybe your home might not fit that many. But anyway, it's just been a lot of fun learning as we go along. How can we make others feel special? Make them know that they're loved by God and that we love them and that we care about them as well.
Here is what I hope that you have heard and will take away from this very intimate, precious visit with Michelle and the girls.
Very intimate and precious. What did she say?
Here is what I hope that you have heard and will take away from this very intimate, precious visit with Michelle.
Very intimate, precious visit with Michelle and the girls. That sounds interesting.
And the girls. Through hospitality, we can change the culture in our families, we can change the culture in our church, and we can change the culture in our community. That doesn't obviously gloss over the fact that we're all riddled with sin, but God works through even those things.
Oh my God. By the way, you're all filthy sinners. Thanks for coming to my hospitality event / Titanic cosplay patriarchy event.
Things for our sanctification as we work through relationships. It's the most powerful way to change the world, is this right here, relationships. But it has to be built on Jesus Christ first, just like those ladies said in 1916. And it has to be
That was a Titanic reference if you didn't know.
founded in an understanding that we're stewards of what we have. That they're just all of these things that we use to give and take care of other people, they're just tools that God has given us. Even our children, we're just stewards of our children. They aren't even ours to keep.
Oh my God, this is so toxic.
And so we need to be good stewards of those things. And I want to say this about Michelle, whom I have known for a number of years and seen in all sorts of different circumstances and situations. God has blessed their family because of their family's heart and motivation. And I think it's a really unusual blessing. I remember asking you.
It's an unusual blessing, you could say. Maybe a curse. Maybe a Duggar curse has been laid upon them.
I don't know if you remember this. I remember asking you one time, Michelle, you know you're unusual, right? You know not everybody who gives their womb and their body to the Lord is going to end up with 19 children.
That's so unnecessary to read her like that.
The thing is, You don't know what the Lord is going to do. His plan is perfect. And if you give your body to the Lord and say, I'll have however many children you want me to have, you're probably not going to have 19. I would say the odds are you are not going to have 19. But if you do, He's going to perfectly equip you for that.
Yeah, you might not have 19, you might have 10, 13, you might die in childbirth. I just don't agree with the lifestyle. And then she goes on to say, and if you do have a large number of children, the Lord will provide. Yeah, is the Lord going to write you checks every month? I don't think so.
And that's what I think is what is so beautiful about Michelle and her family is that you look over the course of their life, and you can see this even if you just get her books and just look over the course of their life and see how God has rewarded their hearts. Not that He's always going to reward it that way. Not everybody gets a bigger home because they have more kids.
Oh man, that's bleak. That's sad. That's not encouraging.
It's just not the way it works. But you know that when it does happen that way, when you do see God's blessing in your life, you know that it is from Him. Is this making sense? I just think Michelle is a very special example. Michelle and Jim Bob. I'm saying Michelle because we're all ladies here, but it's really their whole family has said, we are stewards of these things. We want to give everything that we have for others and for the Lord. And the blessing that has come back on them has just been extraordinary and wonderful, which then enables her to come and share with us again, which is a special treat. So I hope all of you are encouraged to look at hospitality maybe a little differently in one way or another, or just to go a little bit farther and to let the Lord stretch you. Thank you for coming and visiting with us, and thank you for being a part of this. And if you're able to, please visit with Michelle afterwards. And now I'm going to ask Stephanie to come and lead us in a Christian home.
See, I told you they were dressing up for a Titanic event. Okay, so what did we learn from hospitality with Michelle? Like, practically, actually, what did we learn? That it's okay to be messy sometimes, but not all the time. And to ask for help. Use your children to help you. Use child labor. Like, have them babysit and help set up and run character lessons, okay? Parentification. Buddy system helps with that. Get a bunch of cabinets and storage things and organize, declutter. If you have a bunch of children, God will provide. Serve meals buffet style, serve casseroles, but also whole grains and orange slices. Stick to your daily routines sometimes. Don't be afraid to go out and do stuff with them. Have large groups of people in your house, even if it's small. Have people over at least once a week. And be a good steward of your children and a good keeper of the home. Like, those were the tips. You guys were there. That's what she said, right? Those were the tips. I forgot to show you guys. I made a paper chain while they were talking because I was inspired by the paper chain that Bill kept touching. It's made of scrapbook paper and painter's tape. And I think it's a good metaphor for the love and support from the Jennonites. That's what each chain represents. Each chain represents a different nice thing that you all have done for me. And I will think of what that is later. But this is my paper chain. Hello, everybody. It is the next day. I needed a break from that, and so now let's watch the second video, which is called Tea with Michelle. Although, do not get it twisted, I don't think anyone is drinking any tea there. And no tea is being spilled, also. It's pretty lame. I'm pretty sure Jim Bob gets interviewed first, and it's like Nobody wants to hear from him. So this is one of the bonus features as a part of this DVD. This is an interview with Jim Bob conducted by Doug Phillips, and seeing as how they're both fundamentalist, patriarchal, abuse, forgiving, overbearing jerk-offs. I feel like this interview is going to suck.
Were you all blessed by that?
This
Jim
buzzing
Bob,
noise.
I thought your talk here was one of the most practical,
Oh! Do you guys hear that buzzing noise? That's horrible.
helpful, plain-spoken messages I've heard at an event like this, and
I don't know what's worse, Doug Phillips talking or this fucking buzzing sound.
I just want to thank
Okay, it's definitely their microphones.
one of the point where your heart was just helpful, plain-spoken messages I've heard.
I'm gonna try and add some de-noiser to it, some de-hummer, which is an effect in Premiere, and hopefully that will be fixed, but that is just hitting me in all the wrong places.
One of the things that I'm very impressed by is that God is working through humility. The Lord is blessing humility.
Doug Phillips is the last person on earth who needs to be speaking about humility, and especially when it's in reference to the Duggars. They wouldn't recognize humility if Michelle Duggar gave birth to it.
And we're going to need an awful lot of that in the years to come, because we're dreaming big things, and God's only going to bless us if we fear the Lord and if we're humble before him. And Jim Bob, you have modeled that in a way which is awesome, and thank you. I remember D. James Kennedy said,
Why is he so out of breath? Why is he so sweaty from this conversation?
well, I spent my whole life trying to be humble, and one day I realized I'm a very humble guy, and I had to start all over again. Can you point to a particular time
So funny. I forgot to laugh.
in your life when you felt as if the Lord was just enlarging your heart to your children and to children? And what exactly was it? What was the linchpin? You told us a little bit about that, but I know people are oftentimes looking to analogize to see what happens in their life with others' lives. So was it a book? Was it a story? Was it repentance? What was it that was the turning point where your heart was just desperately turned to your children? Was it the recognition we made a mistake here?
Right. I think
What made you realize that you loved your children? When did your heart open to having so many children? Like, what? Was it the fact that you made a mistake?
after we went through the situation with the birth control pill, we really heard some testimonies that children are a blessing from the Lord and a gift from Him, and this is God's plan. And my wife and I just knew that was what God had put on our heart. But then as we started having children and we got up to, number 4 was just like the perfect child. I mean, just never did anything wrong. It was such a joy. And then we had number 5, and she was a joy, and number 6. And then we got to number 7, and we had all these little children running around, and we thought, what have we done? How in the world can we have any more? How can we,
You know, when your wife had a nervous breakdown in the laundry room trying to raise your children in a 900 square foot house while you run a business out of the living room, and she has to get on her hands and knees pregnant and clean the carpet with her hands because you're using it as a business? Yeah, I'd say you were probably in over your head. You, Jim Bob, didn't have to do anything, but Michelle had to do all that work, and your children, your daughters, had to pick up the slack. So maybe it got easier as the daughters got older because then they could help you raise the kids. It's like I didn't just sit through 45 minutes of Michelle talking about how terrible her life is. Well, I guess Jim Bob wasn't there. That was just for ladies, so I don't know. Maybe I have information that he doesn't know about.
we can barely keep up with the diapers and feeding them, and we're just starting to homeschool and all this stuff, and we thought we didn't know if we could have any more. We didn't handle any more. But in faith, we kept going, and he said, no, we've given this area of our life to the Lord, and we had number 8.
He's acting like he doesn't have a choice in the matter. Michelle doesn't have a choice in the matter, but he's just like, I don't know. We don't know if we could have any more, and we left it up to God. There are so many steps in between that. Like, God didn't make you come in your wife, Okay? You chose to do that.
Number 9, and then we had a set of twins, number 10 and 11. And anyway, it's just amazing how God has always met our needs. Now, we've gone through the same things that the rest of you guys have gone through of whenever you have your first child, everybody's so excited for you. And then you have your second one, people are still, excited for you. But then when you have the third and fourth, people start thinking they need to protect you from yourself. And they think they can convince you, family, friends, people you don't even know come up to you and start telling you how you don't need to have children and how you need to have a vasectomy and all this.
And maybe you should have gotten a vasectomy.
And it's just amazing, the mindset. I remember I was out on a campaign trail. When I ran for state representative. I was out campaigning in this, I was out handing out cards to people, and I was knocking on doors, and knocked on this one door, and this lady opened the door, and she said, hi. I said, hi, I'm Jim Bob. I'm running for state representative. And she said, yeah, I know who you are. She said, I'm not going to vote for you until you get a vasectomy. And then she slammed the door in my face. And
sounds like you didn't want to do what it takes to earn her vote.
We've been through all that. But I want to tell you the good news.
Also, what a snowflake, Jim Bob. You can't handle a little criticism.
The good news is that when you hit about number 10, 11, people start getting happy for you again. And because they start seeing your older children, they start seeing, hey, this isn't a bad thing. This family, they're able to handle it, and they're raising children that are a benefit to society.
That they start seeing your older children. Yeah, they start seeing the sister moms, and they're like, oh, okay, I can see how it could be done. What?
And they think, well, it looks like they can handle it. So they start seeing the fruit of the labor, fruit of the womb here. So anyway, don't give up, and especially you younger families that have all these little ones, the children grow up so fast, and it won't be long till these 2-year-olds or 20-year-olds. And of course, we just had our first grandbaby.
Doug Phillips is also the guy that said that a 9-year-old girl in 5 years might be married. So I wouldn't really be talking about that. And also, once again, he's just talking about parentification and child labor. Like, they grow up so fast when your freaking daughters are being forced to raise their siblings. Yeah, that'll do a number on you.
Such a joy to have a godly daughter-in-law. You married my son that's living for the Lord, and they're raising the first grandbaby here to love the Lord. And anyway, and I want to give you a quick Josie report too. We went through one of the most traumatic experiences of our lives. And little Josie was born back in December at 1 pound 6 ounces. And it was a very difficult situation. We didn't know if she was going to live or die. We didn't know if Michelle was going to live. And anyway, with God's mercy and thousands of prayers.
No mention of the doctors, nurses, NICU team. Nobody who was actually in the hospital taking care of these people. But okay. It was God's plan. It was also God's plan to have Michelle get preeclampsia and have to give birth so early. But you can't question that. Once you start questioning it, then it all falls apart, and we can't have that.
Josie weighs almost 10 pounds. She's almost 7 months old, and she's doing very well overall. She's still on a little bit of oxygen, but we're so grateful to God. And so thank you for your prayers.
Thank you, Michelle. He should have said.
And going through a tough situation, sometimes you wonder, God, why did you allow this to happen? But we were, right after Josie was born, this friend of mine called me from New Jersey.
That friend was Tony Soprano. He also famously wouldn't get a vasectomy. And things worked out really well for him.
And right in the middle of that, they had a child born with spinal bifida. And it was a very tough time for their family. But he called me and he said, Jim Bob, he said, this is something that really helped me and my family when we were going through this. And he said, God's will is what we would choose if we knew all the facts. And And I said, thank you. And that it really has helped us to get through to see that God has a bigger plan and purpose, even with Josie being born early.
God, it's like disabled people are not born to teach you a lesson or to show you anything about God. They're just people, and I just don't appreciate how they talk about things like that. It just feels exploitative.
The more children he had, the clearer his vision became. The more he wanted to do, the more he saw God's opportunity.
And none of these men talk about the fact that, yeah, it's easy and fun for you guys to have 23 children. You get to come in and, play with them, but it's your wife and daughters who are actually doing the on the ground, day to day, mundane labor of raising all these kids.
The Lord has just expanded your ministry and your vision. Is this an accurate representation of what God has done as he's given you children?
It really has. I tell you what, of course, having children puts a lot of responsibility on the mom and the dad. But with that pressure, it draws you to the Lord. I can remember back a few years ago, well, actually several years ago, our family was just praying together, just as I don't even think we really meant it, but we'd say, Lord, I pray that we can impact this world for you. And we would just kind of say that when we're praying and not even really meaning it. But the Lord has really opened up the windows of heaven to give us an opportunity to minister to people around the world through the television show. And we do interviews in Australia and Russia and Germany and all over.
God gave you a TV show. I don't know. I think God was trying to teach you a lesson about yourself, Jim Bob. I think you're supposed to confront your own bullshit, and I think you're supposed to do right, and I think you're supposed to leave the world a better place than when you found it. But I don't think that that's actually happening with your family. I think what you did instead was exploit every single one of your children, oppress your wife and daughters, and allow your perverted, abusive son to do whatever he wanted to anyone he wanted without any consequences, and you actively hid that and gaslit your daughters into thinking it was no big deal and that they should defend him, and then you tried to run for office. That doesn't sound like you're achieving that goal, but okay. Your wife gave birth to 19 children, so I guess you get the fucking Nobel Peace Prize.
Jim Bob, here's a question that I'm very interested in myself. I grew up in the home of a man my father ran for president of the United States. I was in the public limelight to a certain extent when I was growing up.
The most coverage Doug Phillips has ever gotten to a mainstream audience is on my channel. And that ain't saying much. Fuck you, Doug. Your dad was never going to actually win the presidency. You know that, right?
I remember I'd be going with my dad to the White House, doing press conferences, even as a very little boy. And so that was new to me. But then when I became a father, I had to consider what would the potential implications be of being in public, at least to some extent, not in the same universe with.
What? He just wants to relate this so bad to himself. Nobody cares about you in public. If a random person saw you in public, they would have no idea who you are.
I hate to say it. I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street. I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man.
Oh, wow. A religious figure sexually abused someone close to him. You're not even that special in that regard. I can find a guy just like Doug Phillips at any local gas station.
I don't think there's any family. You have the problem of both people almost idolatrously loving you, and then you have the problem of people despising you. And
I'd say there's probably a lot more of one group of those people.
And then you have a lot of people that just love you in the very best way imaginable. I was on the Learning Channel's website where they had all these different people.
Why is he going to use the government name of TLC?
People write. I think you had something like, I don't know, 500,000 fans on the website, some astronomical number. And there would be 25 comments from people who just, their lives were changed. And then, of course, one vitriolic, nasty comment. And, of course, you expect that.
Honestly, this is something I needed to hear. I need to remember that just because I get one bad comment doesn't mean that everybody hates me. But, the Duggars, they're a little bit of an exception to that rule. Like, you should not be doing the things that you're doing, Duggars.
But I remember a day when you were on The View with Barbara Walters and the other ladies that are not very favorable to Christianity, I guess would be one way to put it.
I can't handle this. Those fucking hags over at The View, they hate Christianity.
And Mrs. Walters or Miss Walters looked at your wife, and I thought,
how many strays is Barbara Walters going to catch from Doug Phillips? I need to know. She's not even a married woman.
thought as a viewer that she made a comment that was personally very inappropriate, almost complete contempt. And it just didn't even bounce off Michelle. And it didn't even, it did bounce off. It was almost as if you guys didn't even miss a beat. You were as happy and as joyful and as gracious as you possibly could have been. I don't know how you could possibly have improved that. And it was so powerful that I'm sure even the most diehard fan of the other side would have said, this lady crossed the line and these folks are really a sweet family.
I wonder if I can find this comment. I'll get back to you guys. If I can find the comment from Barbara Walters, I will play it right now. I couldn't find it, but I'll keep looking. I have faith.
How do you protect your wife? She's for all her sweetness, she's tough and strong. There's no question about that. She's sweet as can be, but she's in the best way, tough and strong.
Right.
In the very best way. So what do you do as a father?
Okay, well, a few questions there. I think first off is it doesn't matter if it's a mother-in-law or a family member or whoever that's making comments or
He was real specific with that. He said it doesn't matter if it's your mother-in-law talking shit.
whatever. We really just don't expect them to understand how what God's put in our heart. And so we don't try to argue with people about having lots of children. We just smile and say, we believe children are a blessing from the Lord, a gift from Him, and we just try to come back with a sweet response. We don't try to debate the issue with someone. We believe that God's Holy Spirit will work in their heart in the timing. But when they react to us, then they're actually being drawn to us. And so just keep that in mind. If I know many of you.
And everything, I'm rubber and you're glue. Everything you say goes back to you.
You're dealing with family members that are even hostile towards you or whatever, but just state that you're trying to train children to love God and to serve Him, and have the right response yourselves, and that will model it for your children. And Michelle's very good about just always coming back to the loving response, no matter who we're talking to. And as we respect these reporters, most of our interviews, most of our media stuff has all been secular. But as we respect them, it's amazing they have respected us. And of course, we have a publicist that kind of sorts through some of these interviews and stuff. And we've had, but like for instance, one day we got a call from the National Enquirer. They wanted to do an interview with us, and we talked to our publicist, and they said, well, they're going to do the story whether you do the interview or not. And so we went ahead and did the interview with them. And our story was so strange already, they didn't have to change anything.
This is so funny knowing what the press was going to do in just a few short years after this interview was conducted. Now for the actual DVD content, because that little Jim Bob interview was just a bonus feature.
If I were to ask you to identify the most influential mother for
Where was this energy earlier? Like, this is probably just their backyard, but like, this is nice. This is fun. But I'm telling you, the interview that Belle does with Michelle is not this fancy. There's no backyard. There's no tea sets. It's just in a big room with bad microphones.
For American families today, who would you choose? For me, one woman stands head and shoulders above the rest. a special lady whom the Lord has raised up to communicate the nobility and blessing of motherhood. Her name is Michelle Duggar. Through her television program, 19 Kids and Counting, as well.
The fact that they zoomed past Anna in that picture is so funny. Let me see it again.
Her name is Michelle Duggar. Through her television program, 19 Kids.
It's literally just Anna creepily in the back getting like overtaken by Michelle.
As well as its various incarnations on the Learning and Discovery Channel over the last 5 years, Michelle has touched the lives of millions of women with a very simple message. It's great to be a mother. Children are a blessing, and the life of a large family can be filled with joy. Hello, my name is Belle Phillips, and I am so pleased to call Michelle my friend. As the mother of 8 children.
Do you really think Michelle considers her a friend? Just asking.
And I'd like to offer some of that encouragement to you today. Join me on this special journey. Come with me as I visit Michelle the day after she brought little preemie Josie home from the hospital.
That is not a good thing. Will you people stop crowding around premature, immunocompromised babies? Please stop.
Watch a beautiful video presentation from grateful women in America. And listen as I interview Michelle about the nuts and bolts of managing a household of 20. I am especially excited to show you the beautiful awards ceremony where my husband Doug and I presented Michelle with a Mother of the Year award.
Okay, I'm very familiar with that video. Don't you worry.
As part of the baby conference sponsored by Vision Forum Ministries. And of course, I hope you'll enjoy our clips from a very special afternoon where more than 300 ladies joined me for tea with Michelle.
I'd love to have tea with 300 beautiful ladies. Just saying.
Since the launch of the original reality TV series, 14 Children and Pregnant Again, viewers from around the world have been inspired, encouraged, and fascinated with the Duggar family. That series became the highest rated show ever on the Discovery Health Channel and later led to the Learning Channel's 17 Kids and Counting. After 3 television seasons, the show now goes by the name 19 Kids and Counting. In December of 2009, as the Duggar family anticipated the arrival of their 19th child, baby Josie was born 3 months prematurely at only 1 pound, 6 ounces.
Michelle never complains about anything.
I cannot believe that they put a freaking bow on tiny baby Josie like that. Like, you can't even exist as a premature baby fighting for your life in the NICU without having the gender roles forced upon you. Like, there is no need for that.
The situation is fixing to change our lives. Forever.
It is sad, and I'm glad that Josie and Michelle are okay now, but damn, you flew too close to the sun, dude. Every single fucking person on Earth told you not to have 19 damn children.
God has made it abundantly clear that children are not an inconvenience, but a blessing. Just as the scripture says in Psalm 127:3, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. The Duggars have been faithful to follow the Bible's directive to be fruitful and multiply, even in the face of great difficulty. When Josie was 6 months old and just released from the hospital, our family had a special opportunity to visit Michelle. We paid a visit to the home of the Duggars in Little Rock, Arkansas. And we had an incredible surprise when we stopped here.
Okay, was this on 19 Kids and Counting? Because I don't recognize this. But also, once again, leave that tiny baby alone. Do not touch her. Do not bring a camera crew. Let this baby rest. Please.
Look who is sitting in your lap, Michelle.
Little Miss Josie. She got to come home from the hospital yesterday, and so this is a very special day, her first day at home.
And she is 6 months old, and now
They just threw her into the Duggar fire, you know, like, oh, come on, kid, you're just barely out of the hospital. It's time to get to work. Like, we got to make money somehow. And it's just sad that she can't even exist. Of course, she's got to be on the TV show. The second that she is home, they're like, all right, filming stuff. Do an activity, do a conference, have 1 million people over. Club, bus, another bus.
Pounds and 6 ounces.
And she's just thriving.
She said, I wanted to get in on this conversation. It's all about babies, precious babies.
In July, Michelle and Jim Bob were special guests at the Baby Conference, an event sponsored in San Antonio, Texas by Vision Forum Ministries, promoting the beauty and blessing of life. 300 ladies joined me from around the country for an afternoon of tea and fellowship with Michelle.
There also is some footage here that I do not have because Jessa and Jill spoke to the women and they're playing footage from a conversation that I haven't seen. And so I wonder why they only filmed and made DVDs out of some of this. I want to know where the rest of the footage is. I know they got it somewhere in the Vision Forum vault.
And obviously none of us anticipate that we are going to be given quite the family that God has given her. But God has blessed her in such an unusual and
And half of the people here are like involved in some sort of computer or video thing. So I just don't understand why the audio sucks so bad on this. That's all. Plus, there's going to be an extreme echo because they're just in a big empty building. Like,
then he's given her a platform where people can take a window peek into her life in a very unusual and intimate way. And she and Jim Bob have been willing to be transparent and open. So the last thing I want to say before we dive into some really fun questions is that, in my opinion, God has used Michelle and Jim Bob and their children to really change the way that America looks at large families. And those of you that were in the tea with us a little while ago, please.
I mean, we definitely have an opinion about it. I wouldn't say it's changed for the better.
Permit me to just repeat something that Jenny Chansey talked about, which had actually been in my notes.
A Jenny Chansey name drop. You should know all about her if you've seen my Vision Forum video.
To say at the tea even, and that is that several years ago when we would be out walking with our large families, there would be snide comments or don't you know where children come from? Don't you know how to stop this? Don't you have television? All sorts of these little just and then something happened.
You got to be prepared to field the shitty comments if you're going to have a large family. And I would say most of the time people are just trying to make jokes. They're just trying to make like conversation with you. They are rude comments and you shouldn't shame people on their reproductive choices, but it's just like, oh wow, you're complaining that they have a problem with this, with your quiverful lifestyle, with your Christian nationalism. They have a problem with that? Oh no.
Happened over the last several years. Here's what I hear now. Do you know the Duggars? Are you like the Duggar family? Do you see their television show? And it's not, the extraordinary thing to me is that it's not even from other moms that I hear this. I hear this from, single moms working two jobs.
Was she talking to Reba?
It's not even from other moms that I hear this. I hear this from, single moms working two jobs. I hear this from the homosexual man at the hairdresser.
What? Oh my God. I don't think I can handle this. I need to leave. I'm getting in the car and I'm driving away. Even the homosexual man at the hairdresser has something to say about the Duggars. Well, don't you feel special, Belle?
Who is a committed Duggar television show watcher.
Yeah, gay people love this shit, Belle. I could have told you that.
And, that's funny on one hand, but you think how the Lord is using the testimony of this family in ways that you may never anticipate.
The Duggars are not going to convert a homosexual hairdresser man to be a Christian. That's not what's happening. I guarantee you there's other reasons why this person is fascinated with the show. This is so funny.
Or the divorced businessman. I mean, those are just 3 examples of...
So here's your choices, okay? Single mom, homosexual man at the hairdresser, divorced dad. You have to tag yourself. Obviously, I know which one I'm picking.
Specific people that have said to me, that have asked me, do you know about the television show? Are you like the Duggar family? Is that the goal that you're going for? And my response is, what an incredible thing the Lord is doing to change people's perspective and to give them a window into a very real family. Okay, enough of that.
Yeah, enough of your bullshit. We hear from Michelle. That's why we're all here.
Really quick, I don't know if you can hear. Is my voice picking up good? Okay. First of all, I want to say to Belle, just what you were saying a minute ago. I thought you and Doug have no idea how much you have impacted our lives and helped us in so many ways with just your heart to minister and reach out. And you have touched lives that.
Okay, I just figured out what's going on with the microphone. So the microphone is to project their voices for the people there. It's not to record to do an audio track for the DVD. I don't know why Belle still has a lav mic, because clearly this audio sucks, but I just figured it out. It's because they don't care that it sounds bad, because they were like, oh, we'll make some DVDs and like some bitch in 2025 is going to react to it and we don't care.
You're not going to know until eternity the difference that you all are making. And I see a precious, sweet friend, Lori, and she's been that in my life as well here. And so I just think in that whole picture.
Now they're having feedback because of the microphones.
I think initially when we were married, we thought we might have maybe 2 children, maybe 3. We really weren't for sure. But we had in our mind that, we were married for 4 years. And I was on the birth control pill. That was just the counsel that we had received, and that's the direction that we went. We weren't hearing anything different and didn't even consider to ask the Lord what he thought about it. And so that's, to my shame, I think.
And what did the Lord say? Nothing? Is that what happened? Did God not talk to you? I just don't believe that you could ask God questions and get clear answers immediately.
We went through the 4 years and we thought, okay, we're ready now. We're going to start a family. And so we had our first son, Josh, and then I went back on the pill, and I ended up getting pregnant while I was on the pill. And I lost that baby. And at that point was when we really went to the Lord, probably from a broken heart, because here I was holding this one baby in my arms, enjoying being a parent, but realizing that with my own hands, my lack of knowledge, that I had allowed one of our babies to be destroyed. And
I just don't think her telling the story every single time is going to have her legitimately crying every single time. She's told the story so much. I just don't think that it's the way that she's saying it is. And I just think that she has memorized the points to say and the inflection that she needs to have and the voice change that she needs to make it sound like she's crying. I just don't think she has it in her anymore.
We got on our knees and on our face before God, and we just cried out to the Lord, and we said, Father, forgive us and give us a love for children like you love children.
That's so manipulative. You did love children. You still love children. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't understand why God is involved, because like that's your choice to make, and just punishing yourself for having a miscarriage, which was completely out of your control. And so to make up for it, she's going to have 19 more kids.
And we gave that area of our life to the Lord, and we said, Father, we will receive whatever gifts that you want to give us. And right after that, the Lord blessed us with twins. And then another one, and 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 another set of twins. And
how do you think this makes the infertile women in the audience feel? They probably feel like it's their fault and that they're not in good with God because they don't have 19 children like Michelle did, and all she had to do was pray for it,
It's just been amazing, a miracle to see how God changed our hearts, and yet He did greater, far greater than just changing the direction of our hearts, but He truly did create in us a love deeper than what we could have ever understood for the life that He gives, and that He is, every life is precious.
Do your children articulate what they would like to see in their families? Do they talk about having large families, or is it a given, or is something that they think about or talk about? Or
I think often they just figure this is the way life ought to be. If God gives you this many, then just love on them and enjoy them. And yet they also realize, my older ones, they're open to whatever the Lord would have for them, but they also realize that sometimes there's situations where you aren't going to be able to have children, or you may only have one, and that may be all that God gives. And so
Michelle says, but not me. I'm better than you because I have 19 children. And all I had to do was ask. I guess I really am favored by God. I guess I am really Mother of the Year.
I think the perspective is not the numbers, but it's just that heart being yielded to whatever the Lord would.
They say as long as you have the intention of letting the Lord decide, then you get the points. But you have to think the way that she thinks, Like, I hear that a lot. Like, you might not have 20 children, but you need to be open to it. It's like, or what? Like, we have to agree with your thought experiment, or what? You're better than us?
And Daddy always says, he says, God wants us to give Him every area of our life, and that one area that we won't give is the one area that He wants. Mm-hmm. He's going to wait. He's going to pursue.
God over your shoulder with a gun, forcing you to have 19 children.
Until we are willing to yield that to the Lord.
This is very important. I think there's a misunderstanding that if you let the Lord plan the size of your family, that you're going to be overwhelmed and have 50 children and not know what, you're going to be the old woman in the shoe. And I'm sure you realize you are unusual.
I know that. I'm very
You are unusual.
This is not unusual. Yes, this is very, very, yes. But peculiar is the word. That's the word.
I don't know if she realizes it, but Beale is being, so shady. There was no need to compare her to the old woman in the shoe.
And that if you come to Him with open hands and are willing to take whatever He gives you, and that would mean a child with difficulties, or a child for only a year or a few months. I got a letter shortly after we announced the baby conference about a friend who had just found out that they were going to have a trisomy 13 baby, and the wrestling that she went through with the doctors to try to convince the doctors that she wanted that baby for however long she was going to be able to have that baby. So
that is so fucked up to bring up situations like that, because it is 100% up to the woman and the family what they want to do with a pregnancy or a baby that's going to have issues like that. And you shouldn't judge people for what they choose to do in those situations. Not everybody wants to go through with all of that. And it's just shitty that she's like, well, I know this one person who was having a difficult time and they could have aborted, but they chose not to because the doctor was evil. And it's like, you aren't in that fucking situation. You have no right to say what she should or shouldn't do, or what other people should or shouldn't do in the same situation.
But I think, God delights in showing Himself strong. It's not about us. And really, reality, the truth is that this is very peculiar, that God would give 19 children, really 20 with the baby that we lost, to one couple in a lifetime. And I think it's far beyond just about us. This is not about us. This is about Him.
Oh my God. She's trying to deflect, I think, because a lot of people are jealous that they can't have one, let alone 20 children. And she's trying to grapple with that, and also all the attention, because everyone says she's special and everyone says she's the mother of the year and she's like this big shining example that we should all aspire to. And she's trying to grapple with it by saying, like, hey, I didn't have 19 children. The Lord wanted me to have that many. And this is about him, and this is about glorifying his uh reign over our wombs. And it's just weird because Belle's trying to be like, well, not everyone's going to have 19, so you should try to have as many as possible. And Michelle's like, I don't know why God gave me this many. Maybe it's because he's trying to like prove a point. And it's just gross because like these are human lives.
And who he is, and that he says children are a gift and a blessing. And I think our society for so long has said they're a burden. And now I am praying that we're seeing a change in a lot of the comments that families are getting. And my heart's prayer is that people would be drawn to the Lord, that Christ would be made known as a result of these shows going out. And so that's been our prayer.
What are some of the things that you do practically to restore your health, to keep your health? Do you, whatever you're willing to offer us, vitamins, sleep habits, 6-hour workouts every day, which I'm sure you have lots of time for.
What? This is... Just start over. The question already sucks. Reword it.
What do you do? I mean, because here's the thing. You are an exceptionally vibrant woman. You are put together, you're healthy, you have a beautiful smile on your face. I know that an enormous amount of that comes from just a very personal walk with the Lord and the grace that he gives you.
I just love how they're just moving the microphone around and walking in front of the camera because they know that nobody's going to watch this.
But part of what he gives us is wisdom to take care of our bodies. So are there any practical things? Vitamin B, anything that you just say, I try to make sure that I do this every day. I know that on the show you said you take, I think you said a prenatal vitamin every single day, no matter what.
Right. Well, I first want to say at the very beginning, I realize stewardship is a very...
Oh, that was horrible. Somebody got their mic too close to the speaker, I think. That was just awful.
An important part of all of this. But in the big picture, tomorrow, it could change just like that.
Now it sounds like her microphone is off. What the hell happened? Why did they mess with it in the middle of the interview? They couldn't wait?
Honestly, I do try to eat a lot of low fat. I eat a lot of salad and fruits and veggies and...
Okay, everybody that's paying attention, remember, salads are the key to having 19 children.
For the last 21 years, I've been growing babies, and I think that if I will make sure that I keep those things in my body, it's going to be beneficial for both the baby and myself. But really, I just know it's God's grace, and that, tomorrow my health could change, but for now I'm grateful and I'm thanking the Lord for the health that I have, and I'm enjoying my children, and I'll be honest up front, I have issues that you guys don't see that I deal with as far as like my lower back issue, and
I will say I do feel bad for her. I bet her back is in a lot of pain constantly. I guarantee you, her back is fucking hurting.
C-sections in various places along the way. Jimmy would always ask if he could video the C-section because he just wanted the possibility of learning involved in this.
Was he in there like freaking John Madden, like going over the tapes, pointing out where the doctors could have scalpeled? Like, get the fuck out of there, Jim Bob.
And they were very kind to let him do that. But he would always, it's in every one of the videos, he will always ask the doctor, so, doctor, how does her uterus look?
Okay, that's just so creepy because he's only asking because he wants to knock her up again. Because it's his weird, disgusting fetish. Like, I don't understand. You don't need to be asking the doctor. Or is it more like, you hire the plumber to come over and fix something in your bathroom and your dad's standing over him with the flashlight, like, hey, maybe you should move that a little to the left. Like, you don't know what you're doing, Jim Bob. And you're a pervert. So please, get out of here with your camera. I don't even know why they're allowing you in there at this point.
Doctor would always say, it's remarkable. I'm amazed. This uterus is really in good shape. And so the doctors that were doing this last C-section said, the uterus is a muscle. And the more you use the muscle for the reason it was designed, the better shape it's in. So I got to thinking, well, thank you, Lord. I wasn't even expecting that.
So Michelle's got a magical uterus and it's super buff and worked out because she uses it so much. Is this real? Is this a parody?
You said something earlier about a turning point for you when you made a conscious decision to make the joy of the Lord your strength. Would you mind just repeating that?
I think there's a message to moms on our website, and to expound on that a little bit, I was standing in my laundry room. Ironically, that's the place that we would spend a lot of time.
So I wonder if this is going to be the origin of the laundry room meltdown story, or if she's just told it a bunch of times, because that's what this is sounding like it's about to be.
And it was probably like 1:30 at night, in the morning actually, and I was just crying, and I was just talking to the Lord, and I was saying, Father, surely you've picked the wrong person for this job. I am so inadequate. I feel so not capable of doing this job that you put before me. You've given me all these precious little gifts, and
This is so horrifyingly sad and depressing. I feel so bad for Michelle.
I love them to death, but I think I'm going to go nuts. I don't know how I'm going to keep up this pace. And, I think it was at that point that God's Holy Spirit just spoke to my heart, remembering the words of a wise older woman that had shared with me long before this time. She said to me, Michelle, let the joy of the Lord be your strength. And choosing to smile and to love and to hug on those little ones, even when you felt like crying and you were too tired.
This is not advice. This is just telling people, well, it's okay if you hate your life and you have a meltdown because you're overwhelmed and your husband won't help you with all of your kids. That's okay because they're so sweet and they love you. Yeah, okay. We're starting at square one again.
To just do one more thing. And that came to my mind at that point as I was standing there in that laundry room. And I just cried out to God and I said, Father, I need you. I feel like I'm not capable. And I feel like the ship's going to go down. And unless you save us, we have no hope, Father. Please intercede and rescue and just take care and meet all these needs that I feel so inadequate to be able to do. And I began to sing through my tears, the joy of the Lord is my strength.
I did not think she was going to start singing. What the fuck?
The joy of the Lord is my strength. The joy of the Lord is my strength. Oh, the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Did she just put a curse on us?
And I would sing that for days. My children watching me with tears streaming down my cheeks sometimes at home. And what I really was ministering to my heart was God was saying to me that verse that became my life verse at that point, 2 Corinthians 12:9. And he said unto me that my grace is sufficient for you.
okay, God's grace is sufficient. He picks imperfect people to do things to serve him. It's all going to be fine. The Lord is your strength. What does that mean practically? What does that mean in the day to day? How are you going to get help besides, making your daughters do it? Like, that's not helping you. You might feel better for a few minutes, but like, that's not fixing the situation that you're in. That's not giving anyone actual advice. It's just, all right, I know it sucks and we got to keep going on, but just make sure that you're praying. Like, that's such a toxic attitude, and no wonder this shit is not sustainable.
And at my strength, his strength, he said, Michelle, you're not capable. I was wanting you to realize that. But his strength is made perfect in weakness. And so I said back to him, most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. And so I move forward in life. And in that note to mamas, you'll see other details about all that and how God brought about an angel in our life named Nana, who helped to relieve some loads of laundry and other issues in my.
Okay, that's worse than what I thought. She said, all of my problems got fixed because we started making grandma do labor for us.
My life, but the message that God brought to my heart was that I had to choose joy. I had to choose to make that choice, to look that little one in the face and smile at them and love on them and let them know their worth and how important they were, and just move on and know that God was going to take care and meet my needs and the needs of my children that I wasn't able to meet.
You talk about, both in the television show and in the book, about different aspects of your schedule, about giving the children jurisdictions so that they take care, which some of us would call chores. I really like your choice of the word jurisdiction because it doesn't come with all the baggage.
I think it comes with way more baggage. What are you talking about? There's such a weird Christian implication with the word jurisdiction. Like, you can just call them chores. You can even call them responsibilities. I think that's a good word too, but just the fact that she's like, I love that word. Like, I don't know. They probably got it from IBLP anyway.
But can you just describe a little bit of how the family works and just some of the practical things about the way the labor is divided up and how you might rotate those jurisdictions according to age or...
Okay, well, we had witnessed other families doing amazing things with their young children. And I think I'll never forget the day that my sweet friend Lori had her little Johanna at our house. She probably wasn't even tall enough to stand to reach up to, well, she was just above the counter. And she was just going after this salad, chopping with this huge knife, just going after it, getting this salad all ready for lunch. And my girls, who were bigger than Johanna, were just going, I can't believe this. Look at this. And I said, wow, we've got a lot to learn. And I thought, that was where I really thought, you know what? I probably am not allowing my children enough responsibility to do things that they really are capable of doing.
And I don't want to hear anybody say, oh, it's normal. We should all help out around the house. We all have chores. Yeah, that's very normal. It teaches kids responsibility. Love it. They should have to take care of the place that they live into. That's not what the Duggars are doing. And you guys know that that's not what they're doing.
Jana at 12 began doing lunch. That was her responsibility. I just said, Jana, I know you could do this. You'd probably do better than me. You're so much more creative when it comes to cooking. So she just took off with it and just started fixing lunch. And then Jill came along and we were like, okay, Jill, we'll let you do supper preparation. And then I'll jump in and help a little bit because it was a little bit bigger. And from that, it was just like we began all these other things. It was like, the little guys really could do great in organizing the pantry.
Jana maybe wanted to do it one time, and now it's her job, and now it's her responsibility. And if she ever stops, gums up the works.
That could be their job. We know they could do this. So we gave it to Josiah, and he had to get a stool to stand up to reach some of those shelves, And when they realized how much they were needed
and how important their job was, that if it didn't happen, everybody was going to starve, or we weren't going to be able to find the can of, stewed tomatoes on the shelf if it wasn't there.
Yeah, that should definitely be up to children to be the reason that the other kids get to eat. It shouldn't be the job of their parents.
And how needed they were. It's amazing when children realize that they are responsible. It's their jurisdiction. If it doesn't happen, the family is going to struggle without you. They really rise to the call. And so today I'm amazed. My older children now, after starting that years ago, they will get these little guys when typically they're finished with all their responsibilities. They'll corral that energy and say, come and help us. We're trying to do this and we need your help. And I have literally seen, like, if there's been times go by that we haven't been able to catch up on dishes because we have like these big pans that have to be done by hand. Well, they'll corral these little guys and they will take bath towels, big white bleached bath towels, clean bath towels. Anyway.
Where are you going with this?
All across this long counter that we have. And they name each towel. This is Jason's. This is James. This is Justin's towel. And of course, they'll strategically have the ones doing the washing be quite bigger so that they're not making water sets go everywhere. But they will hand off that jurisdiction to these little guys, and they may be washing and putting like sharp knives and glass on the bigger child's towel. And then the younger ones get like the big giant bowls and the big pans that won't break when they drop them,
So, okay, the children are also directing this activity. It's other children delineating what is an appropriate task for an even smaller, younger child to do. I just don't think that's very funny.
And let them go at it with a clean, first they have to wash their hands, sterile, clean, and then a drying towel and go after it. And within a short period of time, a job that would have taken some of the bigger ones, 2.5 hours to do because it's been a while since we were able to get back to the back part of the kitchen to get all that done, will be done in no time. Those little guys beam. They love it. And my older girls and guys that are working in the kitchen, they let them open up cans. My little ones will do anything to get a hold of that can opener and get to help open up cans and just do whatever they can to help. Keeps them busy, allows them the privilege of being responsible and getting to be a part of dinner and getting thanked at the meal for what they did to help. And they're not getting into trouble. And they're not pulling things off shelves that they ought not to be. And they're sitting there. Even the ones that can't do a lot of it can sit and watch and help bring a towel and then climb back up on their stool and sit and watch and then go get this for the one that needs it. The 2-year-old can be the gopher to go get things, and they come right back to their stool and they sit because they're waiting. They want their turn. They want to be called on to help. It's amazing. I would have never dreamed of all that, but my older ones are doing this because of what we learned when they were 12 and 8 and 9. So it's amazing.
And that is really important. And the older ones remind us, don't they, when we don't have the little ones pull their share.
Yes. And I think,
your teenager or adult child should not be so overwhelmed and stressed out and responsible for taking care of the house that they're already complaining that the little ones can't help them enough. You know what I mean? Like, there is a major piece of the puzzle missing here, and it's you, Belle.
She's still on oxygen. Tell us how her needs have changed your routine and schedule a little bit, and how that has maybe brought out character qualities in the children or given them a tenderness with just a baby that needs a little extra attention.
Well, definitely. We are so grateful for Josie and that we have her. We're just grateful to have her. We don't take for granted the days and the hours and the minutes that we have with her. She was able to go home from the hospital about a month ago. And as of 13 days ago, she and I went home. So we are now home, which is unspeakable joy. She is still on oxygen and she weighs 9 pounds, 13 ounces.
and is just doing miraculously well. They have said that her eyes and her ears and her heart and all of her important things have checked out fine, which is a miracle. And so I am just enjoying having her at home. My schedule has changed totally since the birth of Josie. I was airlifted to Little Rock early December and did not return back to Springdale, where we lived, until 13 days ago. So for 7 months, I've been in Little Rock, pretty much at the hospital, a lot of the time. I sleep at the house where we were living, where our whole family had moved to. But I just think the amazing thing to me is that my children's love for children hasn't changed a bit. They're not bitter. They're not angry. They have rose to the call when Mama has been gone. They have done so many things.
This is also fucked up. Like, she's being like, it's okay that I parentified my children. It's okay because they still love children. They're not bitter. They're not mad at me. I did nothing wrong. Even if they aren't saying it, there's trauma in that family, Michelle, and that we're only talking about one aspect. There's some major other issues going on, and it's just sad. Your daughters, I don't care how old they are. I don't care if Jana was like 20 something at that point. They should not be the ones that are taking full care and responsibility for your preemie daughter. Micro preemie at that. They should not be in charge of that. Jana is basically Josie's mother. And I keep saying that because it's true. Jana was the one who was helping Josie get to the ambulance when she was having seizures because Michelle and Jim Bob were off doing some dumb shit, protesting a liquor store or running for Senate. Like, it's horrifying the amount of responsibility you put on these girls, and then you justify it by saying it's God's plan. God didn't tell you to do shit. God didn't tell you to do none of this shit.
Felt like more than anything, God laid on our hearts when all of this took place. Father, do you want us to try to have two homes and go back and forth, or do you want us to relocate and try to be together as a family? And resounding, God said, you need to be together. We want to be together as a family.
Did God really say that? I don't know. Maybe because God doesn't talk to me. I don't understand how people get this information. Does he send out a newsletter? I don't understand.
Talking earlier about taking the children on running on errands and using that as a very special one-on-one time with the children. So I would put that in the multitasking, where you can accomplish things at the same time very effectively and intimately with your children.
I mean, she's making the best of her time, but like, how sad is it that the only special time these kids get with Michelle is when they're doing an errand? And she's probably bringing other kids too, so they never truly get alone time with their parents. And it's once again just another way for her to get shit done. She's got to go to the bank. You want to run with me? Like, wow, that's so much fun.
And then I think about, being able to spend time with the children. I tell them, there's nobody else in the world that I would rather be with than with my family. I love you guys. I want to be with y'all. You're the ones I want to spend my time with. And so if I'm running an errand or doing something to go to town, I will take one with me, usually one-on-one time. Sometimes I'll take 2 or 3 depending on what I'm doing. But the first things that come out of my mouth as we're walking out the door is I will say to them, so how are you doing? What's going on in your life? Is there anything that you need to tell mommy? Is there a secret that you haven't told mommy that you need to tell mommy about? Is there something that I can pray for you about? What can I pray for you for? And as I'm asking those questions as we're walking out the door, their little hearts know they have a safe place to share. And boy, they are a chatterbox. From there on, it's like
I hate to be this guy, but it's not really safe or comfortable for her children to say what they're really going through to her, because her daughters told her what they were going through in regards to Josh, and they took Josh's side. So I really doubt that anything that these kids are confessing to her is that big of a deal, because they know that nothing's going to be done to help them if there is a real problem. She'll probably offer to pray for them. Like, that's about it. I wouldn't tell her shit. I wouldn't tell her the color of socks I'm wearing.
Stop. That's about all I get out. And then the rest of the trip is them getting to share their heart with me. And I feel like that's the most precious time that I have with them, is making it valuable, making it quality. Don't do surface stuff. Go straight to the heart, because you don't have a lot of time. We've all got the same amount of time every day, and really make it worth your while, and their time too, because they'll never forget those trips with you, those times of talking with you. And I think in the kitchen when we're working, we will do that. If there's one-on-one, I'll just talk with them. I'll take that. Anytime I'm alone with them, whether I'm standing in the kitchen or in the laundry room or doing something, I'm asking them, how are you doing? So what's going on? Tell me about, your struggles. Have you been having thoughts that are bothering you that you haven't been able to share with me yet? I know we've been really busy. Tell me what's going on, and just open their heart so they can communicate. It doesn't have to be this scheduled time where you sit down and we're going to take every Thursday to do this, because you can pray while you're preparing your meal. You don't have to close your eyes. It's amazing. So
Tell me you don't have enough time in your day without telling me you don't have enough time in your day. I gotta pray and make meals at the same time.
What do you say to people who might say that your older children are raising your younger children?
I'll say, well, I think my older children are learning so much more than I ever learned, because I was the baby of 7. I got babied all my life. But I think the beauty of this is my older children are learning how mentoring is such a precious part of life, and how those younger children absolutely love them and admire them and look up to them and want to be like them. And I think it does nothing better for my bigger children than to want to rise to the call and be people that I could have never dreamed them being. They have far surpassed me in things that I taught them. Now they're far better at it than I ever was. And I know it's because those younger ones are watching them and pushing, and they're like just waiting for the moment that they get to do what those bigger ones are doing. And so it's a precious relationship. And I don't think my older ones are the least bit worse for it. They don't complain. It's not like they're bitter, any of that. And I think it's that spirit of the mama. I am so grateful for every little thing they do. I'm always telling them, thank you for doing that and cleaning that little one up and giving them a big old hug and saying, thank you for washing that little one's face.
The thing is, it's good that you're thanking them and appreciating the work that they're doing, but it's not enough. Eventually, it just becomes background noise, and it just becomes a part of their job to take care of their siblings like you're supposed to be doing.
Do you believe in biblical chastisement for your children?
Jim Bob and I always say that's our way we approach that, is we believe in the biblical form of correction, and we love our children enough to not let them misbehave.
Okay, you guys can't see down here what I'm looking at, but the video is about to be over. She asks about biblical chastisement, which I'm very interested to hear Michelle's answer, and then they start playing this cutesy music and cut her off. No, I'd like to hear exactly, specifically what you're doing to punish your children. Please say it into the microphone, Michelle.
And continue down a path of destruction.
Yeah, okay. God. I think the next thing is the award, so we're almost done, guys. And now, Doug and Belle Phillips are going to present Michelle with the Mother of the Year award, and this is at their historic baby conference. They call it that. I'm not calling it that. And this conference had all kinds of things. We saw the Duggars. We heard speeches like the hopeful theology of miscarriage. and there was a lot of babies there. That was the whole thing. It was the baby conference. And Doug and Belle and the Grateful Women of America are thanking Michelle because they said with her influence, because of her show, because the fact that she has 19 children, she has inspired all these women to have full quivers. And I don't know if that's true or not. You really can't tell. But Doug says, there's a lot of people in this room that wouldn't have been born if it wasn't for Michelle Duggar.
In the middle of an absolute tragedy of anti-life sentiment, anti-child sentiment, one that has resulted in the fact that you could look around the room here today and 1/4 of the people that should be here are not here because they were aborted. 1/4 of the people are not here. In the midst of a cultural revolution where people have lost a heart for children and many little boys and girls grew up without ever holding a baby in their arms, God has done something that absolutely has shocked and surprised all of us with his mercy and glory. And that is he's raised up a man and a woman and their family to be the face of love to hundreds of millions, if not billions of people around the world. Today, the Duggar family is one of the best known families in the entire world. And it isn't something they've sought for themselves. It isn't something that they've done for themselves. In fact, they've put their family at risk and they've trusted the Lord with the grace which is highly uncommon. And yet by doing that, I believe we can say with absolute confidence, there are children of this world who would never be here but for Jim, Bob, and Michelle. There are babies that have been born that would never be here but for Jim, Bob, and Michelle. There are marriages which are intact, which would not be intact but for Jim, Bob, and Michelle. There are girls that would have gone in a very wrong direction in their life had they not seen the examples of happiness and joy and love in the Duggar family provided by Jim, Bob, and Michelle. The Lord has chosen to put his anointing on Jim, Bob, and Michelle. And Michelle, we've been watching you love your husband. We've been watching you enjoy your children. We've been watching you respond with grace no matter what comes your way. We've been watching you delight in babies. But on behalf of the millions of women and husbands and sons and daughters that are encouraged and blessed by Michelle Duggar, we've put together a little thank you.
So then they gather up a bunch of Vision Forum women or Grateful Women of America. I don't know how they rounded them up, which included a lot of Vision Forum people, different random people. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but of course, several Baird sisters, the mom, Kristen, Alyssa, Susanna, Rebecca. I always just want to call her Curly. They were all in it. Bethy was not. And of course, they're all thanking Michelle. Some of them give longer reasons than just saying thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
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 Thank you, Mrs. Duggar, for being a godly older sister in the Lord.
Michelle, I am a grandma and excited about future grandchildren because of the influence that you have had on my daughter, and I so thank you for that. God bless you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Michelle, I love the way you look for biblical character lessons in every event that happens in life, and then you help your children see those and apply those. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
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 But that's thank you, Michelle. And then they give her the award. Doug kisses Michelle for some reason. Of course, Jim Bob is weird. He gives her a weird kiss that she can't say no to. And then he kind of is just like, yeah, I really love you. And today's great. You're a great mom. And then she talks. So it's really anticlimactic.
I tell you what, I feel like the richest man in the world. We consider each child worth more than $1 trillion. And my wife, we're going to celebrate 26 years this year, and she has given me 19 wonderful children. that love God and serve Him. And I'm just so thankful. Thank you, Michelle, for giving yourself to have these children. And I love you, and I'm more in love with you now than I was 26 years ago. I love you.
So that was 2 grueling days of Michelle Duggar Vision Forum DVDs. I'm glad I watched them. I feel like it's a piece of the puzzle of the Duggar lore, and I hope you all have enjoyed the Thank You Michelle memes. I'm certainly not going to stop talking about Thank You Michelle, and I've already made a GIF that you can find on Tenor, and it's basically a whole meme at this point. But, you know, I'm not going to try and shove it down your all's throat very much. I don't mean to insert Thank You Michelle into every video. It's just so happened to be the last couple of videos I've talked about Vision Forum, and so I thought it was appropriate. I will say shout out Free Ginger. That is where I originally found the Thank You Michelle video. It was on a Girl Defined thread. They were talking about how Girl Defined was involved with Vision Forum and IVLP. And to this day, I still don't know the origin, why they were there, if they were involved with Vision Forum more than just this moment, if they have something to hide, I don't know. But it's interesting nonetheless when there's like unintentional crossovers between the things that we talk about on the channel. And so just the fact that it's the Girl Defined sisters minus Bethy thanking Michelle, it's just the perfect fodder for the type of humor we have on this channel. And so I love Thank You Michelle, and I will say thank you, Michelle, for giving me a career. And now I have 400,000 Genonites, and I'd say that is a pretty damn full quiver, if I do say so myself. If you enjoyed today's video, remember to consensually smash that like and subscribe button. If you want to support us financially, we have Patreon and YouTube memberships. They do the exact same thing. And we have $1 and $3 tiers. Once again, those do the exact same thing. I don't like to charge very much, and so people want to give different amounts, but I feel bad not letting everybody have the same benefits. So if you join, you get access to the Discord where we do Monday night watch parties. I think one of my mods is looking to expand the watch parties and do more cult documentaries and other kind of true crime stuff. And whereas, you know, usually when me and James do a watch party, it's usually some sort of like comedy show or a fundy reality show. You know, we've been watching the Duggars, we've been watching Sister Wives. I think we're going to start watching something else, but I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, so I won't say what it is. We also have merch that you can buy, all kinds of cool merch, t-shirts, Funky Fridays, Overweight Sexually Broken Loser, My Pronouns Are Child of God. We've got posters, Lesbian Socialist Republic, which is a kind of a Vision Forum meme joke, Deconstruction Danger, and Jezebel Spirit, our newest addition to the poster collection. And all of those are stickers now. In fact, most of these designs are available as stickers. We've got all kinds of stuff. I'm looking into hats and journals and flags and stuff, so we got some cool stuff coming down in the pipeline. But if you want some merch, we have that. Otherwise, if you don't want to give us any money, that is perfectly fine. You can just enjoy yourselves here. But I'd say leave a comment or like it or something on your way out. I love you guys so much. I owe my entire career to you. You guys have been such a supportive community to me in more ways than one, more ways than 10. You guys have just been so supportive. Everything we're going through with James's health and the different issues that we've had lately, like, I can't thank you guys enough for being so amazing and incredible, and just you make my life amazing. I just can't thank you enough. I know I'm repeating myself. It's just because I'm overpowered with the sense of love for the Genonites, and I hope to see you soon. We've got some interesting stuff coming up this month. We've got an ad coming up, so you know James is going to be wearing a costume, and I really look forward to that. And just love you guys, and stay in school, read a book, touch grass, play video games, play Oblivion Remastered, and then tell me about it on Discord. Love you guys. Bye, and thank you, Michelle.
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 Thank you, Michelle.